It was a very hot summer in Hong Kong. In fact, it was so hot the sun was splitting the stones. As I stepped into the hospital, chills run through my body, run through my arms, run through my legs. As I stepped into that room and I opened the door at the mortuary, I still remember the bright ceiling lights and the white floor. And I saw my dad's body. And I looked at him, and I didn't recognize the body because in my memory, it was much larger. It was so small. And there was a thin ice around the body. And I've never seen that expression on his face. He seems to be in so much pain, and his teeth was missing. And as the tears were pouring down my cheek, I said to the nurse, no, that's not my dad. My dad doesn't look like that. Because I couldn't believe, and I was crying so hard, and I started to choke, and I couldn't breathe, and I just couldn't breathe. Because I couldn't accept the fact that my dad has passed away. I never got to say goodbye. And I asked myself the question, was it worth it? What am I doing all this for? And what's the meaning of this? Because I remember I started my business when I was young to support my family, to provide a better family for my future. I came to Canada when I was 14 years old with no money, no connections, and I couldn't speak a word of English. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 16 years old. And that's how I got into business. I remember there's a time when my mom and we lived in Surrey, and we would live in a one-bedroom apartment. And my mom would sleep in the bedroom, and I would sleep on the floor in the living room. I remember there was a time my mom and I would go to a local bakery, and my mom and I would drive our car and we'd go there at 6 p.m. once a week, because the bakery closes at 7. And we would buy a whole load of bread for just a few dollars. And I would eat that bread for lunch and breakfast for the entire week. I remember there was a time I was just trying to survive. Just trying to make ends meet. And there was a time my heart would beat a little faster because we were trying to figure out where the money is going to come from this week. Where I'm going to find the money just to pay for groceries, just to put gas in the car, just to pay the rent. I mean, we had no idea. At the time, we didn't have any money, and I had no idea if I will ever be, when I'll be ever be successful. But I remember, I always tell my parents, Mom and Dad, someday, don't worry, someday I'll be successful. Then I'll take care of both of you. Just like most people, I started a lot of different things. I had a lot of failures. Jumping from one thing to another, have all these crazy ideas. And I started at 13 businesses before having my first quote-unquote success. And finally, I caught a little bit of a break, and my business was just taking off. And I had finally have some little bit of security in my life. It was okay, and I was making a six-figure income, annual income with my consulting and writing business. And finally, I have some breathing room, that I have some security. And as I told and I can take care of my mom, take care of my dad, and take care of myself, and put some money aside. And as I strive to achieve more and more and more, and I was on a fast track to success. And as I become more successful, I was spending less and less time with my family. And I was chasing what I thought was my dream. I thought was my dream. That at the time I thought if I had my first successful business, then I would have made it. And then it's 2 companies, and it's 3 companies, it's 5 companies, it's 1 car, it's 2 cars, it's 3 cars. It's the first million, second million, third million. And I was chasing this, all this chasing, this game of chasing, but it was nothing more than a scream for validation. I was seeking validation from the society, from my parents, from my friends. I was seeking approval from my teacher that I am enough, that I want to prove to the world that I am smart, that I'm somebody, that look at me, look at my accomplishment. I was self-centered, I was selfish, I was egotistical. I was trying to win the game of fulfillment, running on the track of achievement. How many of you can relate? That's where I was. The problem is, you can never validate yourself internally by something external. You can never validate yourself something internally external. And as I was achieving, I was lying to myself. I'm doing it for my family. I'm not spending time with them because I had to work. That's why I'm working so hard. So that I'm not spending quality time because I can produce, I can provide a better future for my family. I was just lying to myself until one day I hit the wall. I was chasing the biggest deal in my entire business career. That if the deal goes through, it would set me up for years. And I thought, wow, I got to make this work. And I was out of town and I was negotiating. And my aunt from Hong Kong gave me a call. I received a call from her. And she said, Dan, your dad is in emergency. He may or may not make it. You should come back. And I thought to myself, yes, okay. But I'm so close. I'm so close at closing a deal. Let me close the deal for my dad. Then I would take this and I would fly back as quickly as possible and see him. But what I didn't expect is I lost the deal and I never said goodbye to my dad. And that's when I got very honest with myself. And I sat down and asked myself questions that I was too afraid to answer. And I asked myself, what am I chasing all this for? And who am I really? What am I about? What's my legacy? Do I want to be, when I ask myself the question, if I get to the last hour of my last day, laying in my deathbed, looking back in my life, how will I wish I have lived? Do I want to be known as someone, well, that guy has made a few dollars? Or do I want to be known as someone, you know what, that man, he changed my life. And that's when I made the greatest decisions I've ever made. I stopped being fearful and just start appreciating. I trade expectations for appreciation. I stopped being fearful and stop being grateful. And I stopped just taking in business, taking and getting and more, and I start giving. And I stopped operating from a place of ego, of accumulation of wealth, accumulation of status, recognition, and power and money. And I start operating from a place of contribution and growth. Contribution and growth. And from there, I finally recognized the secret to having it all is knowing you already do. It's to knowing you already do. The other day, I was being interviewed on a radio show, and the host was asking me, Dan, if you have the power to change one thing in your life, what would that be? And I said, if I have the power to change one thing in my life, I would say, get to spend a little bit more time with my dad and being able to say goodbye and just kiss his cheek one more time. If there's a gift that I came by to give you today, and that would be, life is too short. It is too short. That commit to yourself something greater than yourself. As I go through this journey called life, as I go through kind of the 4 stages of life, as I went from survival to security, from security to success, and shift from success to significance, what I've learned is when you're looking for more success, if you do it for yourself, that's nice. And when you do better, your life gets better, that's nice. Nothing wrong with that. We all start there. But if you are looking for more success and you're supporting your family, you get a different level of insights. It's a different level of motive. It's a different level of energy. If you are supporting a community, you get a whole different level of insight. And if you're supporting humanity, and that's not bullshit, if you actually want to impact billions of people, you'll get insights most people couldn't even dream of. So I just want to leave you with one question. One question. When you get to the last hour of your last day, looking back in your life, how will you wish you have lived? Thank you very much.